The rivalry fires up again as the New Orleans Saints collide with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Round 2 features some different pieces as rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck makes his 5th start, running back Devin Neal his 2nd, and wide receiver Devon Vele continues to fill a larger role. The Saints offense will try to get rolling early at Raymond James Stadium. The Saints D, they always come to play in Tampa, and this time will be no different with the vets Demario Davis and Cam Jordan leading the way. Here's to coming away with win number 2 in the NFC South. Welcome into Saints Game Day Live right here on NewOrleansSaints.com or across our social media platforms alongside Super Bowl champ, former Saints linebacker Scott Shanle, Aaron Summers. When you look at this game and the way that the season has gone for the Saints, we've talked a lot about starting early, something you definitely want to do on the road. Yeah. The Saints have only had 1 touchdown in 27 drives in the first quarter of this season. What would you like to see the Saints do differently to get going earlier, change momentum?
Yeah, I think obviously that's been a big story for the year because, you know, the defense gives up a touchdown early in the game or gives up 2 quick scores, and now the offense is changing, you know, the way they want to attack. So all year long I've been kind of beating the drum, get the running game going, get the running game going. But at some point, if you're not running the ball effectively and you're trying to evaluate a young quarterback, let's get Tyler Shuck going. That's the way I look at it. Early on in the game, the running game, you've been trying to get it established. Get Tyler Shuck going early in the game. Maybe a little bit of tempo to the offense. He seems to do really well in this up-tempo offense, kind of the muddle huddle where he gets them out to the line of scrimmage right away. So instead of establishing the running game early, get Tyler Shuck established early.
So Scott Shanle is calling for some shots early in this game.
I want to see some shots, and I want to see Shuck putting the ball up in the air because he's done a good job. Listen, 68% completion percentage for a young guy who hasn't started much football in the NFL. The ball is not touching the ground a lot. I think that is one of the most encouraging signs about Tyler is the ball is going to where it's supposed to go to, and he's going through his progression really well.
Yeah, he's got a lot on his shoulders. We've talked a little bit about who is in and out and the way things have happened this season, the injuries, the offensive line has been depleted, and then your wide receiving group. Now Alvin Kamara not playing today. Yeah. How do all of those pieces affect what this offense is able to do?
It's a lot of offense that's missing. Obviously, you know, you don't plan for not having Alvin in there. You don't plan for not having Kendre Miller. I mean, those are 2 big chunks of your backfield. Taysom's coming off an injury. You know, Chris has been banged up. But I think there's signs where you're evaluating the quarterback position, no doubt. But then last week, Devon Vele had his biggest game of the year. And getting him the ball, seeing those in-breaking routes, big-bodied receiver, big catch radius. There are guys that you're still evaluating who are going to be big parts of the future of the organization and big parts of this offense. So I think there's spots that you take from last week's game and say, let's continue to develop and let these guys stack success. Get Vele 8 to 10 targets this week. Get Tyler to throw the ball vertically. We haven't seen that as much since the Carolina game where he had a lot of success. Yeah. I'd like to see him push the ball down the field a little bit more.
We're going to get into more of specifics with the matchup against the Tampa Bay Bucs, but you got to talk about the fact that this is an outdoor stadium at Raymond James, and it rained all week in New Orleans. They did get outside on the natural grass one time. It was Wednesday, early in the week, and it is 80 degrees there. It is humid. It is going to rain at some point later in the afternoon. How does all of that affect your stamina as a player? I mean, it would have been fine back in August. We would have been used to it.
Yeah, it does. It gets a little more difficult this late in the year, especially when you get used to the temperature dropping or going on the road, and some of these teams play in the north more. But I think for the Saints, it won't be as big a deal. I think today, when you mentioned the weather conditions, both teams, Bucky brings a big advantage for them, I think, with the running game. Both offenses haven't been producing a lot. It could be a defensive battle. It could be a low-scoring game. And obviously, when you get into those type of games, the running game determines the outcome. But I think you have 2 good defenses, and if anything, I would venture to say the Saints defense is playing better than the Buccaneers defense the last couple of weeks. You know, the Bucs start off hot, 5-1. They've been 2-4 the last 6 weeks. Baker's been banged up, and the defense, they blitzed the 3rd highest rate in the NFL after the Vikings and Seahawks. So they're going to bring a lot of pressure, but it's a little bit feast or famine. You can get some shots over their heads, especially Jamel Dean. Been a good corner in the league, but he's really struggling this year with his defensive backfield.
Okay, well, we're going to get more of your specific things to watch for this game. First, we're going to head to Stan Verrett and get his recipe for success to get this win in Tampa.
Before we get into this week's recipe for success for the Saints against the Buccaneers, let's talk a bit about the stretch run of the season. As the Saints head into their final 5 games, there's been a lot of talk about draft position and about developing young players. And while those are important things, winning should remain a priority. Nothing fuels confidence and positive emotion the way winning does. Yes, you want to develop young players, but those young players should be developed with a focus on creating winning plays, that lead to winning results. Because ultimately, no matter the situation, that's the objective. So let's talk about how to attack the Buccaneers. It begins with a quick start. If the Saints had managed to do anything offensively in the first half against Miami last week, they might have left with a win in what turned out to be a 4-point game after a great second half. Quick starts have been an issue all season. The Saints have just 19 first-quarter points. That is last in the NFL. Playing from behind changes the complexion of the game plan, so the Saints have to try to get off to a better start this week on the road in Tampa Bay. Secondly, they have to protect the football. The play that changed the game in the first meeting between the Saints and Bucs at the Superdome was an interception return for a touchdown. That was one of 4 turnovers that the Saints had that day. Tampa Bay comes in +9 in turnover margin. That is tied for second best in the NFL. Todd Bowles' defense uses pressure to try to create mistakes, so the Saints have to avoid that. And Tampa Bay's offense only has 9 giveaways this season. That is tied for third fewest in the NFL. And finally, the Saints need to look to attack through the air this week. Tyler Shuck played well in the second half in Miami, and he developed some chemistry with Devon Vele. Vele emerging as a great complement to Chris Olave on the other side. And the passing game should get some opportunities this week against the Tampa Bay defense that is 29th in the NFL. But that comes with a caveat. Tampa Bay loves to blitz, and when they do blitz, they're able to generate pass pressure at a very high rate. So pass protection will have to be paramount for the Saints if they hope to get a win in Tampa Bay this week. Aaron, back to you.
Thank you, Stan. Looking back at what his 3 ingredients for his recipe were: great start, protect the football, and attack through the air. Scott, what are you harping on today?
Yeah, I think I agree with all those things. I think the turnover takeaway ratio is going to be big in a game like this. It's going to be a tight game, so the turnover takeaway ratio is going to be big. Tampa Bay's been really good. You look at a lot of their stats, and they're middle of the pack to lower in some of the things, especially the last few weeks they've been struggling. But the one thing they've done well all year long is take care of the football and take the football away. So I think the turnover takeaway ratio to me is the biggest part of today's game.
Yeah, the Bucs defense, they've forced 18 turnovers, and that was something that led to, honestly, the way the game went here in the Superdome, 23-3 final when we saw them earlier this season, but they forced 4 turnovers. So that is definitely something that needs to change. It was quarterback Spencer Rattler who was at the helm then. Tyler Shuck now taking over. You mentioned that he has done better in that regard. And if you want to lean into that passing game a little bit more, then there are going to be some more opportunities for mistakes. You have to be really careful about.
Absolutely. And there's no doubt, too, that there's a lot of, this sweeping the NFL of don't turn the football over, don't turn the football over. We lose games if we turn the football over. Well, I think you've seen a lot more conservative offense because of that, in the NFL. And it's obvious the turnover takeaway ratio does equate to winning and losing football games. But there's a diminishing returns after a point. If you're not pushing the football and taking advantage of some of the things the defense are giving you, I think this Tampa Bay defense is good. They bring, like Stan said, I said at the top of the show, they bring a lot of pressure. They're going to bring, but teams that pressure a lot also give up a lot of big plays. And I think the one thing, having Tyler in there versus Spencer last time he played Tampa at home, is his vertical arm strength, getting the ball down the field. I think he can take advantage of some of the weaknesses in this Tampa Bay secondary.
Yeah, no, the secondary, they give up a lot of yards through the air, 248 per game. That's the 4th most in the league. Their run defense, though, is really strong, only 97 yards. And that's an area that we talked about has been a struggle for the Saints, only 80 rushing yards a game in the last 2. You don't seem to think that that's what they need to do too much of today, though.
No, I think that's where you look at it, and Vita Vea has been one of the best run stoppers in the NFL. Oddly enough, he's one of the top sack getters on their team, too. So he's playing outstanding football. They do a good job perimeter run-wise of containing the football, making it go inside, funnel it into that big guy who makes a lot of plays. So, yeah, I think when you put up a game plan against a team like this, you say they're stopping the run really well. We haven't really been able to get the running game going. We have some injuries in the backfield, but Tyler's playing well, Vele's playing well. Get the ball to Juwan versus some of those linebackers. We know what they like to do defensively with the pressure schemes. A lot of it is gonna go on Tyler today as far as understanding the protections, the different looks, because Todd Bowles gives a lot of different looks. He'll show you one thing and play a multiple different things out of it. So I think Tyler's, that's one of the other things. I talked about his completion percentage. He's done a good job of knowing who to mic, knowing which way to set the offensive line. Those are little things for a young guy that have been impressive.
Yeah, his command and movement in the pocket has been really good. He's extending plays so he can go through his reads and then deciding whether he's going to take off or if there is an option downfield. When you look at the Saints defensively, when we saw Tampa earlier this year, you held Baker Mayfield to 212 yards, sacked him 3 times. The Saints D, they're coming off a game where they had 4 sacks against Miami. What kind of pressure do you think the Saints can bring in containing Baker Mayfield?
Well, containing him is going to be the number one key. Obviously, I think a big part of that today, he could be scrambling a lot for his life today. Tristan Wirfs out of the game today. I think that's going to be a huge advantage. The Saints need to take advantage of that missing piece. He's arguably the best left tackle in football. He's an outstanding player. But when it comes to Baker, he's scrambling all around the field. Right now, he's career high 15% of his dropbacks, he's scrambling, but he has the second most yards in the NFL. So when he's scrambling, he's breaking contain and he's making defenses play. That's one thing Baker, you watch him play, and I think a lot of fans love watching him play because he's kind of like the backyard schoolyard guy where he just runs around, he points guys, gets them open. That's the part of his game that you can't really prepare for, but the easiest way to contain it is to contain it. If you're the edge contain, keep him in the pocket. He doesn't want to stay in there.
Well, what's the balance then? How much focus do you put on that aspect of this game?
It's all about rush plan. I think, you don't necessarily have to bring pressure to contain a quarterback, and I don't think nobody will confuse Baker Mayfield for Lamar Jackson. Sometimes with guys like that or Michael Vick, you have to bring DBs and fast guys to contain fast quarterbacks. With Baker, it's about having a rush plan, getting up the field, not rushing past the quarterback, doing your job and making him throw amongst the trees because he's not a tall quarterback. He doesn't want to sit back there and throw over the top of offensive linemen, defensive linemen the whole game. He wants to get out and get that window where he can find his guys open downfield.
All right. When you look at the kickers in this game, we're going to be back with Charlie Smith, who has done a great job in his first NFL debut, ends up hitting a 56-yard field goal. He had the onside kick that was successful. So he gets brought up from the practice squad once again, and he will be the starting kicker for the Saints. For the Bucs, Chase McLaughlin is their kicker. He has 9 field goals over 50. He's 9 for 9 over 50 yards this season. So when you have 2 kickers that have that ability from range, how does that impact the game?
Well, it could come down to a kicker type game. The only reason I say is because the Bucs have played the most close games almost of anybody in the NFL. They're 29th in average margin of victory, but they're 5-2 in those games. And you just mentioned it. McLaughlin's a huge reason why they've been able to overcome these close games and win in the end because he's been making their kicks. So it could come down to a field goal game, especially if the conditions get a little nastier and it becomes a running game, a field position game, special teams, which we always forget about. Offensively and defensively, we like to get into those numbers, but special teams is going to be big and could come down to one of these kickers' legs.
Yeah, we forget about it until it becomes an issue or something that pops up in a game, and you're like, oh yeah, should have done that differently. Yeah. All right, we are going to get in now to my conversation with head coach Kellen Moore. I was able to talk to him about this matchup and what he expects in Tampa. Coach, this is the second time that you're going to be seeing Tampa Bay this season. What can you take from that first game, considering there are a lot of different people playing on either side right now?
Yeah, there's always moving pieces. I think the big thing was that game came down to the football. They created turnovers. We weren't able to get them, and so obviously that had a huge impact on the game.
When you look at what Tampa does defensively, what are some areas that you can take advantage of?
Yeah, communication's huge. You got to all be on the same page. They're going to stress you in many ways. They're going to give you a lot of different looks, and so guys just have to be really dialed and tied together.
You talked about making Taysom Hill a bigger part of the offense. How can you expand his role in this next game?
Yeah, obviously, I think we always go into the plan hoping to get him as involved as we can, and so we'll continue to evolve that and give ourselves as many opportunities as we can.
Somebody that has an expanded role so far, Devon Bailey, getting back into the end zone in this last game. How can you continue to utilize him in the offensive game plan?
Yeah, obviously he's playing most of the snaps on offense really the rest of the way, and so he's done that for a number of weeks, and the ball will naturally find him, and so he's doing a great job.
If we may not see Alvin Kamara again this Sunday, who could we see more of in the run game?
Yeah, we'll see how it all progresses. Obviously, the rest of our guys, the running back room, is a younger group, but they've been working really hard, and they're putting themselves in good position to be successful.
How have you seen Devin Neal increase his role and his productivity?
Yeah, I think protection stuff, he does an excellent job. I think that jumps out. He had some really physical runs. They got, they were 4, 5, 6-yard runs, but they were really physical runs in this past game against Miami.
Speaking of running, using his legs, Tyler Shuck's been doing a good job. How have you seen him grow, especially with his movement in the pocket?
Yeah, I think he's just got good recognition of the defense and, nice timing of when to use your feet, when to buy time, stay in the pocket, when to scramble. It's all a learning experience for him, but he's doing an excellent job.
Cam Jordan in his 15th year, he has 6.5 sacks now. How has he just been a perfect example of what you want from somebody on the defensive line? Yeah,
Cam's been awesome. He's the ultimate pro. He's the ultimate example to so many young guys that we have on our team of doing it the right way week in and week out. And for him to be producing at this age with this much success on his personal side, he's doing an awesome job.
With quarterback Baker Mayfield, he's somebody that seems like he can extend plays, has a lot of moxie. What do you have to focus in on with him?
Yeah, I think it's the rush plan. It's built, being all tied together. And so you give him a gap to step up and run, he's going to take advantage of it. And so those are when big plays happen on third down.
It is raining in New Orleans, and it could potentially rain on Sunday. You didn't want to get out here in the monsoon and practice some wet ball drills?
We'll have plenty of that probably in the next few days.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
I think we're all happy that the weather is starting to look better here in New Orleans. The rain is starting to go away, so that's good, and hopefully it does not become a factor in today's game there in Tampa. He mentioned a couple things that you did as well, the rush plan against Baker Mayfield. He alluded to the fact that running back Alvin Kamara may not be able to go. He is, in fact, not going to play today. It's going to be a few other players alongside him as we look at our list of inactives that are not going. Justin Reed, safety, and then right tackle Taliese Fuaga, along with Alvin Kamara, are your injured players that are not playing, and then the rest there, your healthy scratches. The impact of not having Fuaga on the field again, when you already are dealing with a couple other pieces that have been not your intended starters at the beginning of the season, what do you have to be aware of? What does even Shuck have to be aware of today?
Yeah, I think anytime you're missing a player like Tally, it's tough to replace. But I think offensively, you come up with a scheme where maybe you line up Juwan a little bit more on that side, chip block. Devin, when he's releasing out of the backfield, he gives a nudge to that defensive end. You can have a chip plan, but also getting the ball out of your hands quick. Regardless if you have your entire starting line there or not, when you play a Todd Bowles defense, you have to have a quick passing game plan when you go against a Bucs defense, because they're going to bring the heat, but you can make them pay for it if you get rid of the ball quickly.
A couple chunk plays maybe, and working on those short yardage passes instead of maybe leaning in on that run game because you don't have AK, because you're really leaning on Devin Neal to be your main back there. Justin Reed not playing in this one, the safety out because of injury. You have Jordan Howden, who has stepped in at times there, and a couple other options. It didn't seem like Coach Moore was very concerned about that. You add Jonas Sanker in there as well. They do have some good players coming up in that position.
I think you never want to lose a player like Reed, especially, he made a couple big plays in the recent weeks, but I think it gives you a little bit more of a relief when you have a guy like Howden who's played some football for you. It's not like you're throwing a guy in there who you haven't seen. You know what his strengths are, you know what his weaknesses are. He's been in the building, he's made some starts in this league, so you know kind of how to situate those guys when you have an idea of what their strengths are.
All right, well, this one is coming up shortly, 12 o'clock Central kick on CBS, and it is the fourth game that the Saints are playing in NFC South play. They're 1-2 right now, so going to make things all even with the win today in Tampa. For Scott Shanley, I'm Erin Summers. Thanks for joining us on the pregame show. We'll be back afterwards right here on NewOrleansSaints.com to break down everything that happened, hear from Coach Moore and players as well. So stay with us, cheer on the Saints, and we'll talk about it after it's all done. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the game.